Book 2 Section 27 Memories of Thievery. IV. Utter banker's gore. Innocuous comments can change your life in the most unexpected of ways. Take one time for example. Zippy was going out with this girl. I know it seems incredible, but bear with me. She also was rather head over heels with him. Takes all sorts, I suppose. At least I found out what Graham meant when he kept saying oxymoron. She was a bright girl too, who worked in a local bank and making quite a name for herself within the company. She could have been quite good for the Zip merchant had she not opened her mouth one time after a night of pills and dancing. On the road to the come down she commented that it was a matter of great ease to swindle the banks out of a rather healthy sum of money, in principle anyway. Her point was that most people feared banks, treated them with undue respect, as most people enjoyed living on the right side of the law. Most people would never dream of taking on the banks at their game, and even more loathed being in debt. Yet banks loved people to be in debt, then they had them. Debt was their Christmas cake. You get comments like these on a come down. She claimed that anyone could go and open an account providing you had the right documentation. That, she feared, was the main problem, but if you had someone inside the bank that need not be an issue. I'm not sure if the same thing happens when a group of football scouts hear about a promising young lad, or if a group of English teachers hear about a new dictionary, but the four of us all looked in unison at each other and implored her to divulge more, as we cut her a line and made her a refreshing brew. It transpired that the banks allowed people to open accounts with great ease, especially if you went on about changing from one bank due to displeasure. All this, providing you had the identity of a well-respected member of society. None of us fitted into that category. We could hardly walk into Barclays and ask for a gold card with no fixed income and criminal records. If only you could find a way round it, were her parting words. As with the army, we had no qualms with robbing from banks. Banks represented the institution that failed to cater for our talents. Banks would not feel the pinch due to the capers we would pull on them. It was not like robbing from a real person who would feel the loss, a real person who would have their privacy trodden on and whose sense of loss would make them feel violated. This was a bank we were robbing. We were going to do society a favor. Banks are the biggest thieves in the land, so in the name of all the so-called clients abused by banks up and down the land, we were taking something back. Still, if you put your mind to it, you can justify raping leopards as giving something back to society. I couldn't see much of our windfall landing at the feet of Pudsey Bear. The main problem was the identities. The solution was staring us in the face. There was a bit of a weird guy, hideously overweight, disappointing looks, the kind of lad who emitted odors left, right and center, all this coupled with a quite hideous personality. It wasn't hard to see why he was still single. However, his trade handle was the passport controller, and he was shit hot. For our project, he would select well-to-do members of society and make them a new passport, placing one of our photographs on the back page. Of course, holding a passport was not simply enough. We had to have proof of address. That little problem was solved when the master forger came upon some blank British Telecom-headed notepaper and put together a standard letter about service upgrades in which the name and address of our now friend figured. It was just so easy. We walked into a branch. We started in Luton, then moved outwards soon, asking to see an accounts manager. Our work would not be done at a mere counter, and let them know of our intentions to entrust our fiscal existence to their financial entity. Once the details had been fed through the computer and our identities were seen to be clear of anomalies, our credit ratings found to be exemplary, and our fiscal profile in line with the ideas of the bank in question. Should any difficult questions appear, we simply pulled out a line about how we were looking for a change because we were dissatisfied with the intrusive nature of our previous bank and had hoped that the branch we were in may be able to match our standards, finishing with a, well, that's obviously not the case, and how disappointed we were. They were soon falling over themselves with apologies and please sirs. I loved fucking them over. Now, I know you're thinking that the bank may not lose out, but the little people who work there may lose their jobs as a result of our actions, but that is neither true nor founded. Downsizing occurs in banks due to their own greed from top brass downwards. If I am in Tesco and buy a packet of cherry bakules, I don't get a paranoid dilemma on because I may be taking the bread off of the table from a Safeway checkout girl. That's just the way it is. If you don't believe me, Google Adam Smith. Why open accounts? We would do so with 1,000 of Her Majesty's finest tokens. Surely, you are thinking this seems folly. We are simply giving the banks money. Pursed it out. MESMIs, by opening an account with that amount and evidence of a salary going in every month. Only verbal, but why would anyone lie about that? We were entitled to a free £3,000 overdraft and the option to apply for an instant personal loan, without the encumbrance of questions, for the same amount. As we were walking out of the door with the account information, we were only waiting half an hour to come back in and draw out the lot in cash. A few days later the loan would be in the account as well. We would have £6,000 plus our grand back for little more than an hour's work and a few days waiting. Truly the easiest money going. As possession of cash is always considered something of a bonus, Tony Matthews fell in love with the plan and got us to organize it for his cash flow. Plus we were doing a couple of accounts on our own every couple of weeks, just to keep the gold in coffers. Once we had finished with the passports we gave them back to the passport controller, along with his £1,000 cut, and he could punt them on for about £6,000. He appeared to work simply for the admiration and gratitude rather than the money. His place was squalid, even though he must have been clearing a six-figure salary. He ate poorly, crusty pot noodle containers bearing testament to the education of his palate. I said to him, "You'd think if you're gonna get that fat, you'd at least do it on decent food instead of the muck you eat," but he took it the wrong way. Soon we had to move further afield. We had been taking the piss in Luton and its environs. It could be too risky, yet Zippy's ex, he soon got over her and returned to his true Colombian mistress, also let us in on a piece of information that put our minds at rest. The last thing the banks wanted was people knowing just how easy it was to fuck them over, therefore anything like this would be kept internally, an investigation would be undertaken, but priority would be sweeping the issue under the carpet. The general public have to fear the banks, not the other way around. All the same, we decided to play it safe for a while. If you still have the need to remain on your high horse with regard to the morality of our actions and are now going to say that the poor person whose identity we robbed will have to pay out or be blacklisted, you are wrong again. The bank sends them a letter after missing a couple of repayments, to which the good client responds, "What the dickens are you talking about?" The bank shows them the paperwork. The client questions it and the bank says, "But you opened the account with your passport. Look at the copy," to which the client responds, "But my good man, this is not me." At that moment, the bank would make some noise about a terrible mistake and no more would be mentioned of the issue. Red-faced, the manager would beg for forgiveness to the enraged client, whilst wondering what in the name of God he was going to say to his superiors. Now, if you are about to ask me to feel sorry for bank managers, then I shall have to confiscate this book from you. They are the greatest perpetrators of crime in this nation, someone said. Even though we were creaming £6,000 from major high street banks whenever we wanted, that soon got boring. We also knew it could not last forever. So we got greedy, we shot ourselves in the foot. As valued clients, we were also invited to apply for home improvement or whatever loans to do anything one would want for between 10 and 20 grand. We knew this was taking things to the next level, but at least it got the heart beating again. We decided that for this venture we would test the water with people we had hired so that they could make a quick couple of grand while we hoped to make 20. It started to look like more trouble than it was worth when the passport collector started asking for double, as a little bird had had a word with his ex-marine oral receptor and informed him of how much we were making, so the fat cunt thinks he can get greedy and double his price. No wonder this country is in the state it is. Small businesses are bled dry. We agree to this criminal behavior and pay him double, getting a girl to do the first job. Surely the police had twigged that all the accounts had been opened by fellas and a lady might not be what they are looking out for. We observed the situation from afar, but near enough to hear. As soon as these loans were mentioned, the bank staff became suspicious and questions that proved difficult to answer were thrown into the forum. After a few moments, when Hannibal would have called the boys out, smiles were exchanged and everyone went on their way. 2 days later, the 3 people we had hired for this experiment were arrested and the judge and the banks had no qualms about giving them 14 years and would have liked to give them more but for the bloody law. We had been fortunate and we knew it. The 3 claimed their innocence and protested that they knew nothing about other accounts. Even the fact that the photographs were different on the passports didn't seem to sway the banks very much. In any case, they couldn't find the photocopies of the passports from other accounts. They had their villains and safely behind bars they went. I almost felt sorry for them at the time, but was soon far too busy breathing a sigh of relief. We managed to blag Tony by saying we initiated the use of others as we thought the banks were onto us, thus looking good in the boss's eyes. He said that these things cannot last forever and patted us on the back. Everyone had made a few quid, and didn't we deserve a holiday? Just that we didn't. 2 weeks in Crete soon helped us forget about those poor idiots doing nearly half a century between them. Still, that's the game.